Basketball season is upon us. Will Montana State and Eastern Washington defend their tournament titles, or will we crown a new champion? The road to Boise begins now. Welcome to Big Sky Basketball Tip-Off presented by Idaho Central Credit Union. Welcome into Big Sky Tip-Off. I'm your host, Megan Robinson. Today is all about the Bobcats. The Montana State men were picked number 1 in the media preseason poll. Their roster is headlined by 2 preseason all-conference selections, Brandon Walker and Brian Garacki. Garacki and head coach Matt Logie are joining the show now. Coach, after winning the Big Sky tournament last season, your Bobcats were voted number 1 in the preseason media poll, number 2 in the preseason coaches poll. What expectations does that set for your guys going into the 24-25 season?
Each year, each journey is independent of the previous one. And I think if it speaks to anything, it's just the respect that this program has earned over the last few years. And look, all these guys came to Montana State to compete for championships and be a part of that NCAA tournament tradition. And that's what we're striving for again this year. But, you get no credit for last year's results. So we're excited about the journey ahead.
For Coach and Brian, it's your second season up in Bozeman. Brian, why did you choose to follow your coach up to Montana State?
I really saw the vision that he was, displaying. And he had fulfilled on everything he told me up to that point. So I just, took a leap of faith and trusted him that it was going to work out. And I'd say it's been going pretty good.
Coach, what did it mean to you to have a player like Brian follow you on your career journey as well?
Well, I think it's special in a couple different regards. First off, the opportunity to come to Montana State and lead this program wouldn't have happened without Brian Garacki's investment into our basketball family and the relationship that we had forged together over our time at Point Loma was really special. And so to have the opportunity to coach him through the entirety of his college athletics career, which is very rare in today's landscape, I think is very, very special and unique. His familiarity with the culture of our basketball program, the way that we play, our language, the standards that we have, all I think paid huge dividends for our team last year. And obviously he made an impact individually as well, which we always had confidence he could do.
Brian, Coach just mentioned the standard and the culture. How would you as a player describe the standard and the culture of the Montana State Bobcats?
Yeah, the standard is always to win championships. That's our whole goal with everything we do, is to be the best we can. With that, it takes a special culture. It takes a group of people that are all on the same page, wanting to win, wanting to sacrifice for the team. And that comes down to our core values: trust, love, commitment, and servanthood. Those are just big pillars of our organization, and they lead to good things.
Brian, this is your 5th year of college basketball, your 5th with Coach Logie. How has he made you a better player?
Just speaking the truths of the game, showing us through film, trying to teach us that basketball is a simple game. Don't try to do too much, know your strengths. And then also you get better at basketball when you're a better person and you can pour into your teammates and they can pour into you. So emphasizing the importance of that has helped.
Coach, how has Brian Garacki made you a better coach?
Well, I think the first thing that jumps to mind is just his loyalty and trust to our basketball family. I wouldn't have been able to make this transition as successfully last year without him, by my side. I think having that veteran relationship and the experience that comes with that was integral to us kind of installing some of those core values and pillars that he mentioned, because he had lived those before. Brian has just been a great model for our basketball family from day one. He leads by example, but he's also, as his journey has unfolded, he's continued to grow with his voice and utilizing those experiences to better the players and teammates around him.
After the break, hear from the Montana State women's team. Welcome back to Big Sky Tip-Off. I'm Megan Robinson. The Montana State women's team also enters 2024 with high expectations. They were picked second in both the preseason media and coaches polls, led by the longest tenured and winningest coach in Bobcat history, Tricia Binford, as she enters her 20th season. Coach Binford and senior guard Esme Morales join me now. You are Montana State's longest tenured coach, have not had a losing season in 17 years, entering your 20th season at the helm. What have you learned over your career that's going to help you in season 20?
Depth. Last year was kind of a unique year, especially given going into year 19 to have so many bodies not available was a very unique situation, and one of the most resilient years we've seen and had in our student athletes. But we knew going into this season, number one priority was getting everybody healthy. So we had depth to sustain a full season, but also add some pieces that were going to help us get over the hump, take the next step as a program.
One of those pieces you added is, of course, Esme Morales, who is with us today. Esme, what specifically drew you to Montana State and Bozeman when you were deciding where to transfer?
Coach Ben, of course, the coaching staff, especially the experience that Coach Ben has, and then the players, playing against them for 3 years now, so I know of them, but getting to know them at a deeper level, it just drew me. I just knew that this is the place that I needed to spend my last year, in a place where I'm going to grow as a player and a person.
Coach Esme, of course, a new addition to your team. She's an all-conference player. What will it be like getting to game plan for her as opposed to game planning against her this year?
Well, first of all, Esme is such a special, unique talent. And, one of the things that we're looking for in the offseason was to help us on the offensive end and the scoring need, to be able to put the ball in somebody's hands like Esme. I'm like, when you think about prepping for end of quarter and end of games throughout the course of the game, if you go on a couple of possessions where it's dry, and just letting kids play off great instincts. Esme's very unique in that category, extremely special in a ball screen. But one of the things that we've learned very quickly is when she steps on the floor, she just makes everybody else better.
Esme, one of the things that you excelled at last season was, of course, free throws. You led the Big Sky Conference, shooting 90.3% from the line. What advice do you have to your teammates and other young players when it comes to working on those free throws and increasing your percentage?
Reps. Get in the gym as much as possible, but at the same time, hear out your body. Like, when you can't do it, or like when you're hurting, just sit down. Like, it's fine to have that rest day. My free throws have to be clean. It has to be either 2 in a row or 5 in a row.
Coach, what's it like having a player who has that mentality, who won't leave the gym until it's perfect?
This is a young lady that there's a reason why she's at the level she's at. Is she's somebody that is committed to her craft. And one of the things we admire so much about her is when she steps on the floor, her ability to focus on the details, her ability to prepare. She prepares the right way. She steps onto the court the right way. There's nothing about her demeanor that ever changes. We've been a program that has been built on a culture of excellent champion habits, and Esme is certainly that.
Coach, I want to talk about your schedule quickly. You will face 7 programs this season that had 20-win seasons last year, including 4 that participated in the NCAA tournament. What was your overall assessment when you saw your full schedule for this year?
This preseason schedule, the first thing that we love about it is the fact that we're the only class that we're missing in the preseason is the Summit League Challenge. So we miss a couple days there, but otherwise our Thanksgiving games over that break, are not in class during that time period. Otherwise, we have a lot of November home games, which is going to be a nice little start to getting the season going. And we have a great mix of a different variety and levels of conferences that we're going to play. And what we do know here is that you're preparing that yourself for the start of conference play. And I think this schedule certainly does that.
In the Big Sky, you get, how teams play. So going to different teams and different conferences, you just get a different style of basketball, and that's going to help us expand our roles and expand how we want to play on offense and how we need to develop on defense.
Coming up, Colter Nuanez and Krista Redpath join the show to give us a breakdown of Big Sky basketball. Welcome back to Big Sky Tip-Off. I'm Megan Robinson, joined now by two of our Big Sky basketball analysts, Krista Redpath and Colter Nuanez. Guys, let's just get right to it. What were your initial thoughts on the Big Sky basketball preseason rankings? Colter, I'll go to you first.
It's interesting when you analyze the men's league because there's so few returners these last couple of years. That's sort of a symptom of where we're at in Division I college basketball. But the one school that has had returners two off seasons in a row has been Montana, and I think that's reflected when you look at the polls. Last year they returned 6 guys, which is an unheard of number for mid-major teams, and this year they have a couple stalwarts coming back, led by Brandon Whitney, who's going to be sort of an unprecedented 5th-year starter there at Montana.
I wasn't shocked on the women's side. I really expected NAU to come out on top when you look at the fact that they played in the conference championship the last 3 years. They return a nucleus of players led by preseason MVP Sophie Glancy and also Leah Beatty at the guard position. Returning both the Moran sisters, and you mix in a Taylor Feldman and a Sanaya Neverson. And I look at NAU just having that nucleus back, but also just a year of maturity under their belt. And so I wasn't shocked by that. I look at the Montana schools battling out, both Montana State and Montana. When you take a look at Montana State, they also were faced with injuries last year, but this year, with the transfer of Esmeralda Morales, as well as Lexi Deedon possibly coming back from this ACL, they're loaded. They're locked and loaded.
Montana State men have reached 3 consecutive NCAA tournaments after winning 3 Big Sky tournament titles. Who would be the dark horse on the men's side to maybe dethrone the Bobcats?
First of all, I thought it was interesting that Montana State got so much love in the preseason polls because they do lose a lot. Of course, they return Brian Garacki, they return Brandon Walker, but Robert Ford was the heart and soul of that team. So he's certainly going to be tough to replace. I actually probably would have said that Montana State would have been one of my dark horses if they weren't so highly rated in the preseason polls, but they got a whole bunch of respect in the preseason polls. One team that Krista and I actually previewed on our series Big Sky Hoops Hits 2 weeks ago is Northern Arizona on the men's side. I think that they have more continuity than a lot of the other teams in the league. You look at Trenton McLaughlin, who's leading returning scorer in the league, really, really talented guy. You look at Carson Tout, he's my kind of player. I mean, he's the guy that could fit in on every single team in the Big Sky Conference. He doesn't need to shoot it. He doesn't need to dribble it. He just sets screens and rebounds and plays defense. Northern Arizona, I know, was picked in the middle of the league, but I think they could definitely make some noise. They proved it last year. I mean, they beat every good team in the league at least once. They just have to figure out a way to sweep some of those good teams to get into that top third of the league standings.
Colter, you just brought up Trent McLaughlin from NAU. He, of course, is the preseason MVP in the Big Sky. Krista, you mentioned Sophie Clancy, the women's MVP. I'll start with you, Krista. Did the voters get it right choosing those 2 Lumberjacks as our preseason MVPs?
Well, I think they definitely did. When you look at these players and what they have contributed to the Big Sky, and of course I can allude to Sophie Glancy just being a force down low. I mean, she was a unanimous first team All Big Sky Conference selection last year. Her physical skills, strength, agility, quickness around the basket, she really separated herself.
On the men's side, I think you could have got a variety of different ways, but Trent McLaughlin certainly a worthy candidate, no doubt. It's a great story there at NAU too. First of all, they've poured a bunch of money into athletics, which I think is benefiting them a bunch. You've seen both their basketball programs get better. But also the McLaughlin brothers are one of the great stories in the Big Sky, right? Like Alex McLaughlin's one of the best football players in the conference. Trent, his older brother, one of the best basketball players in the conference. And you have to think that I mean, both those guys probably had opportunities to go elsewhere. They didn't because they're there together. That's a cool story. So hopefully that resonates with people.
Krista and Culture, we know NAU women, Montana, and Montana State men are the favorites in both the coaches and the media polls to win the Big Sky Conference this year. Krista, I will go to you first. Who are you picking to win the Big Sky Conference? Give me both your men's and women's picks.
Well, I definitely had NAU to win, with the Montana schools really coming in hot, and on the men's side as well. I think Coach DeCure has done a fantastic job bringing in some really great transfers, but also building around Brandon Whitney. I mean, he's one of the only Grizz players to average double figures for all 4 of his years playing for Montana, just a veteran guard. I also think with the transfer of Patterson from Sac State at the guard position, Montana definitely has all the weapons to look like they are in the forefront to win the Big Sky.
I picked Montana State. And the reason I picked Montana State is I think that Tricia Binford has established herself as the most consistent and best coach in the conference. I thought last year was one of her best coaching jobs. I remember a post that they had on their Instagram page of their bench celebrating, and their bench was KJ Lamardo and Taylor Jansen and Lexi Deedon and all these all-league caliber players that were all hurt. And Tricia Binford got through that season, and they made a run at it. I mean, they were in the semifinals last year. They finished 4th, even though they had more injury bad luck than I've ever seen. You bring all that back, you bring in Esmeralda Morales, and I just think they have a chance to be a really special team. On the men's side, I voted for Montana just because they have the most returners, but I think it's so wide open with all these new players and so many new roster complexions throughout the league. We really just won't know. It's going to take till February until these teams really coalesce. They really start working the ball around and playing together. And look at what happened last year. I mean, Montana State was up and down all year long. But then they coalesced and they played so well down the stretch. And then they had one of the great tournament runs we have ever seen. So that's what it's going to take. Who comes together at the end? Who plays down the stretch? Travis DeCure has proven he can get his team to do that at Montana. Matt Logie, same thing at Montana State. And I think there's a couple other coaches like Eric Duft at Weber and Steve Smiley at Northern Colorado that have proven that as well. So who can get their team to come together? Even though I voted for Montana, I think the men's side is wide open.
Krista Coulter, less than 5 months, and we will see who is crowned a new champion up in Boise. Can't wait to see you both at that tournament. Still to come, what can fans expect from our championship week? Our friends from Visit Boise stop by to share all the city has to offer. Welcome back to Big Sky Basketball Tip-Off. I'm Megan Robinson. Our tournament is in Boise every year, so who better to have on the show than someone from Visit Boise, Lucas Gebhardt. The tournament has been in Boise since 2019. What impact does the Big Sky Basketball Tournament have on the city of Boise?
We think it's about a $6.5 million total economic impact to the city. And so that what we mean by that is all the hotel spending, all of the money that's spent at restaurants and shops and ticket sales and things like that. We think about 13,000 people or so go to the tournament. That includes local fans as well as fans that are traveling to Boise. And we think about 4,300 fans or so travel to Boise to watch this tournament from the various Big Sky markets. So it definitely has a huge impact for the city, and we're excited to have it once again in 25.
For those who have not been to Boise, like myself, what kinds of things can they expect to do there outside of the tournament?
The cool part about our tournament is all the fans can stay in our downtown hotels and be walking distance from the game. So if you fly, you don't have to rent a car. Our airport's 7 minutes, our downtown is 7 minutes away from our airport. We have tons of great outdoor recreation activities. We have a 30-mile long bike trail that runs along our river, both sides of our river. We also have tons of hot springs that are within a couple hours drive of Boise. Some are under an hour from Boise. We have a great wine country that's about 45 minutes outside of downtown as well. So Idaho's got some really underrated wine that we definitely want people to check out if they end up coming here. We were rated by National Geographic as one of the best in the world destinations to visit in 2025. So that's something that we just got awarded. We're pretty excited about that. So we got lots of things to do here, whether it's our great restaurant scene, our outdoor recreation, or just the walkable and accessibility to all the things to do in our downtown.
One of the big things that people want to know when they go to a new city is, where are some of the restaurants that I must try?
Some of the best restaurants in town are some of our Basque restaurants. We have an entire block in our downtown that's dedicated to that Basque culture and that Basque heritage. We also have a restaurant in downtown called Kin that their chef just won a James Beard Award. That's the first James Beard Award that any restaurant or chef in our city has won. So that's something else that we're pretty excited about.
I can't wait to get up there and experience Boise in a few months for myself. And I appreciate you taking time to put a spotlight on your city.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for previewing the season with me on Big Sky Basketball Tip-Off presented by Idaho Central Credit Union. I'm your host, Megan Robinson, and I can't wait to see you all in Boise in March.